My guest this evening is a multi-talented artist. She is a member of the U.S. Army Voices and a soprano soloist in the U.S. Army Band. She holds her master's in music in opera performance. And she illustrated My Best Friend Fear by Tosh Cox. Perhaps you've heard of her. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts virtual studio, NICOLE BOUFFARD. NICOLE.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing awesome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. And this is kind of like a wonderful night that we get to showcase the different facets of your talents. You start with the interview with me, and then I know there's more things with you later. And there's a reading of the book that you illustrated that Tosh wrote. And it's just like, wow, there's all these awesome things. So as a fan of Alice myself and everything that they do, I'm really looking forward to tonight.
Yeah, I'm super excited. We got to have a sneak preview of the reading, I don't know, maybe like a week and a half ago, and it was pretty great. So I'm excited.
Perfect. So like, I think we were kind of talking pre-show that you are in Maryland, that kind of area, or DC area.
That's correct. Yes, I do. I live in Maryland and I work in the DC area. So that's about it. From California though, so I'm far away from home.
Okay. And it looked like you had posted something about, would you have some flooding out there today?
Yeah, I don't know the name of the hurricane. Isaiah? Anyways, there was a hurricane warning yesterday and they said, bring everything in. It's a tropical storm. So I brought everything in. It wasn't that bad, but we did get some flooding. So the winds weren't too crazy. But yeah, this whole street up by my house was kind of underwater. It's okay though. We're okay.
Okay. Well, it's good that you're okay.
Yeah.
Have you been in that area when they've had a stronger hurricane come through?
You know, what's funny is I've experienced the winds way worse than being told there was a hurricane. So I don't get that. Like, now was our official hurricane, but it was not as bad as like even just a couple nights ago. So I don't know.
Okay. Well,
Nature.
It's not, and as long as you end up safe on the other end of it, then that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we've kind of talked about. I'm going to start from the kind of the front end, the modern stuff, and kind of work our way to your background and kind of come back to the modern part. So, My Best Friend Fear, you did the illustration for it. Tosh Cox wrote it. Can you talk to me about how you got involved with that specific project?
Yeah, absolutely. So Tosh and I, obviously friends and associated through music, all types of music. And I don't remember how she got wind that I was an artist. I mean, maybe I had mentioned that my mom is an artist, but I kind of went the music route. I always dabbled in art. And at some point, I think she just said, I'm looking for an artist for my children's book. I've been writing this for a long time. And I said, well, let me read it. I read it. It was amazing. I said, I'm going to send you a little something. So I came up with The Boy and sent her, I think the title of the image was The Boy, and sent it to her, and she loved it. So we decided to go forward with it. Took a long time, took a very long time, but it's amazing. And I'm very glad that she let me participate and share with her.
Wonderful. And just so, can you speak a little bit to, in general, your arts background? So were you formally trained at some point, or just something you love to do?
I'm not formally trained in art, other than my mother helping me learn through as a child, through my childhood. My mom is an architect and an interior designer, so she was a painter. She does collage. She does everything. But yeah, as I was growing up, she would teach me things kind of here and there, and they would buy me books and things like that on how to illustrate. And I always loved anime and cartoons. So that was the style I really want to do. It's not the style of the children's book, but I think there's a little bit of that clean line type of animation style illustration in the book that kind of carries from what I was interested in growing up.
Okay, and even though and you were telling me pre-show, I mean, you're very busy with everything that you're involved with. Do you ever find time where you can paint for yourself?
Sometimes, yeah, absolutely, definitely. During this downtime, I started some digital painting, and that was pretty wild. It's great. I like it. Way easier and less messy. You can do so much, and it looks so realistic because you can sample colors. So it's like, I don't know, it takes a lot of that it's a different art form in a lot of ways, but yeah, I made it a lot easier. It's fun. Super fun.
Yeah, I used to work at a college that taught everything that has to do with making video games. So obviously, art was its own track for getting a bachelor's degree, and digital art was a big piece of that. So being around the college students and seeing what they're doing with the computers in terms of digital art was just mind
Oh
blowing
my
what they were
God.
doing.
I love digital art. I'm such a techie. I love digital art. I know that's like sacrilege, but I love it. I think it's great. You can create just these wild scapes and characters and just this unrealistic or yeah, just amazing art. I love it.
Yeah, no, I like all of it. So if we're talking old school 2D stuff to 3D to all of it is just like that's also probably because I'm not a really good drawer, so I'm kind of impressed by anything I say like, oh, look at that. They're like, Mr. S, that's just my rough sample that I'm doing. That's not the finished product. Like, oh well, hey, that already looks good. I can't imagine what it's gonna look like when you're done.
You just put a filter on it. Didn't you know that? You just put a filter.
Makes it all
That's
good.
everything.
Oh my gosh. So have you had a chance to illustrate anything else besides Taj's book? Has there been something similar project wise or someone else you collaborate just on the painting art side of things?
Yeah, I've done a good amount of art for bands in general. My own bands. I did the artwork, cover artwork for the last band I was in, Strum the Fox, for our EP. And I also have done the art for my new project, Miss Folksilla. I've also done, websites. So I artwork for that. Not necessarily children's books or any other book, novel artwork. That was the big one. But yeah, a lot of artwork for social media and websites and music.
Okay, and that's awesome. And I'm kind of getting the feeling that based on what you've been saying that do you have an interest in like comics or like sci-fi, Star Trek, Star Wars kind of stuff,
How did
or
you know that?
I just kind of put some things together based on what you said, being into art and being a techie, and
Yeah.
so that's a whole side of your personality too. Then,
Yeah, geek. Definitely a geek.
all right, no, that's I think again what Alice and myself and their fans and you obviously now have in common is we all have things that we geek out about. I definitely went through my whole comic book period and my Crow period with the comics and then the film and all this kind of stuff. And I've been to comic book conventions and horror conventions and yeah, so I've done all that kind of thing. So we're all in the same company here for sure.
Yes, I love it. Yay! Unite from our own homes. Woo!
Awesome.
But
So
yeah, comic book art. I was never into comic books, but I have been introduced, and that's just it's so I feel like I know it's geek culture, but it is so like the talent, the amount of talent. It's just amazing. So good.
yeah, no, I agree. The amount of talent and also the timetable that those guys have to turn out stuff. Like if you're working for DC or Marvel or a big company, you need to know your stuff and you got to be able to just like execute it to the point where it's like, here's the 15 pages I have to turn into you by this day, and it looks mind blowingly just good. And then
Yeah.
here's the next one, and here's the next one, and just watching them in conventions, like do commissions for fans. 15 minutes, this whole thing's done. It's like, holy crap.
You're like, that's insane.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, awesome. Mind blowing. Mind
Yep.
blowing.
Let's kind of move into your area that I guess you're most known for being music and opera and performance and being a part of the military. Can you kind of walk the fans and the viewers out there through like how you got involved with the military bands and the voices that you participate in?
Absolutely. So, yes, I am a member of the United States Army Band. It was a great opportunity that I took after my master's. I got my master's degree, took the audition for the Army Band, and got in. So, basically, yes, I am in the Army. And yes, I did have to go to boot camp. But what I do for the Army is full time music, and we are the musical support for the Military District of Washington. And I love my job. And yeah, it's a huge honor. What I do is a huge honor, and I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it for anything. Very, very happy. I work with so much talent. It's great.
So how many years has that been that you've been a part of the band?
I'm going on 5 years.
Wow.
Going on 5 years, yeah. I re-enlisted for 6 a couple like last year. So yeah, I'm gonna get my at least 10 in, hopefully longer, make it a nice career. So
Okay.
that is what I do.
Well,
Hmm.
see, and this is an aspect that I think some people in general kind of forget about, that the military is many different things. It's not just, in the back of your head, it's seeing the soldier, down in the, in a war, down in the trench or something like that. So it's all kinds of other factors, from doctors and technicians and
Absolutely.
musicians and all of that.
Yes.
So, definitely thank you for your service.
It's my honor. Thank you.
Yep. I've always told people that, for me at least personally, that I get to do what I do because of what the military does first. So that's how I've always viewed it. So, truly thank you for your service. And so, being a part of let's start with the U.S. Army Band. You were telling me that you go to your day job, you love it. Right now with the pandemic going on, you're probably working on, I don't know, what are you working on right now?
Well, we are, although our main mission in the band is music, we have been tasked to help with pandemic response. So the majority of our members are doing things like health checks and, making sure that people stand 6 feet apart in the grocery store and things like that. More assisting and helping the bases around DC handle the new circumstances. But on the music side of things, we, like everybody else, have had to switch into a virtual environment. So this has allowed a lot of growth and a lot of experimentation, a lot of successful experimentation, in my opinion. But it's been just like everybody else. We've had to transition to the new platforms, so that's been fun.
Yeah, you're kind of telling me that you're really liking this kind of time, that you can be productive and also just kind of being isolated, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I like it. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. Although it
Okay.
is weird, it is going to be weird to be on stage again. I'm going to not remember how to be on stage. Be like, what do I do?
I think that's going to be like the kind of the same for everybody. Going to have that rust, and then hopefully the muscle memory will kick in, and then you kind
Yeah.
of be like, "Oh, that's right. This I'm supposed to like connect with the audience, and I'm supposed to be doing this, and I'm supposed to hit my marks over here, and that
Yeah,
kind of thing."
exactly. Get the newbie jitters all over again. Feel like
Yeah, and
it.
like you said, you're born in California, and you went to school. Let's see. I have this information. California State University, Northridge.
That's correct.
Okay, and that's where you got your bachelor's and your master's.
Yes.
So, what drew you to music initially from way back when? Because you mentioned your mom was into art and everything.
Yeah, a couple different things. Musical theater. Definitely wanted to. Well, my parents got me into musical theater when I was young. I had no voice. I don't know what was. I don't. I had no voice. I really wanted to be able to sing, but I couldn't. And for some reason, I just kept trying. I just kept trying. All of a sudden, I just like had a voice. So musical theater started to become a regular part of my life as I started to get used for roles, and then I started getting lead roles, and then it transformed into singing lessons and opera lessons when I was fairly young. I also played guitar and wrote my own music starting around 12. So I loved music and I loved performing. Those were kind of my two jams, and making little movies. I like to make little movies when I was a kid. So that's kind of how I got involved in all the things that I do now. Yeah, and I just went from there.
Okay, so like when you were getting into music and musical theater, did you have certain productions that you were always wanting to be a part of when you were younger, like Les Mis or Phantom or something? Like, I
Oh,
want
I
a role
loved
in this.
Phantom. I loved Phantom of the Opera. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I love Phantom of the Opera. Bite me.
um, so, were you? What's the timeline when you're working on the musical theater? Was that all the way up to college then, or is that?
Yeah, it was. I mean, everything kind of, it just like it still does, things kind of cycle for me. So, I mean, musical theater was huge all through my high school. I was in this very intense children's theater called San Jose Children's Musical Theater, and that was pretty brutal. Got a lot of great training and experience in every side of the fight to get the roles and the chaos and I don't know, it just really trained me good. That was all through high school and college. I started doing the singer-songwriter thing more, City College. And then I decided I was going to go get my real degrees in opera performance. And then I went straight through that. Started my own opera company out of college and freelanced as an opera singer and a bunch of other performing jobs until I landed my job in the Army band. So it's kind of how that went in a nutshell. Very quick rundown.
Yeah, no. So let's kind of poke through some of that. You were telling me before that you have you've sang in some rock metal type bands. I actually saw one video from a band called Strife, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. So was that something new, or is that something that again goes back to when you were young? Like you always liked certain kind of hard rock or metal bands?
Yeah, I did. I think it was System of a Down that did it to me though. And that wasn't when I was really young. That was probably, early 20s, but that introduced me to that style of music and I loved it. Loved it. So, I mean, I never thought I was going to be in a metal band, but when the opportunity presented itself, I was like, I'm going to be in a metal band. And I did that. And I loved it. That was great. And I love those guys too. They're from Armenia. And it was like a family. It was very, very cool. And I love the music. And there's nothing like being on stage with that sound. Not only does it make you deaf, but it just pumps you up. So there's that.
Deaf and pumped up. Yeah. Yeah, because I know the clip that I saw, I believe it was actually on your channel, was very progressive metal sounding. And then you came on and with your voice and your vocal talent and just soared right over the top of it. And I love symphonic metal bands myself. So I dig that kind of thing when you have someone who's classically trained or operatically trained as a vocalist come into that and mix in that world where it sounds really cinematic and you can just kind of picture all these kind of like movie-like scenes happening. And yeah, I totally dig that kind of thing for sure.
Yeah,
so
I love it. Do you know, In This Moment was one of my big inspirations during that time. I don't know if you're familiar with that band. She did both. And that was one thing I could never scream. I don't know why I couldn't get that. So I think I even talked to Tosh about this too. I was like, how you get the growl? Like, I can't do the growl. Like, Maria from In This Moment is like screamer and but it sounds amazing. I mean, her voice is pretty trashed when she talks, but there is that. But the difference between that going from the screaming and then the, like you said, the ethereal, like power ballad type singing, it's just, I love that style of music too.
Yeah. When you're talking about that, I was thinking about, are you familiar with Arch Enemy?
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah. So their current singer is Elisa White Gluz, and she does the whole clean singing and then the total guttural death metal kind of thing.
Cool.
She's guested with a couple other bands that I like, and at first I actually thought that was a guy. I didn't know who that was doing these the kind of things, and then I saw the special guesting. I saw her. I'm like, Elisa's doing that kind of vocal.
Like, oh girl. That's so cool. So cool. I always wish I could do that. I don't know if it's my training, but it stops and they say, oh, try it in a pillow. It's like, it sounds bad. I don't know what to tell you. Even my band was like, don't do that. Just don't. I'm not going to try right now, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I and if I had tips, I would give them to you, but I have none. So I don't know what those ladies are doing.
Someday.
Yeah, and Tasha's got real angsty on a lot of her songs. So maybe she could tell you some more things of what she's been doing to get into that nitty gritty.
Yeah, we did. I do remember we had a brief discussion about it, so I won't give her tricks away. I only got a couple.
Okay, now that sounds good. So you're talking about like today. I know. I think it's actually later in this show about Miss Folkzilla and your single Indigo. And so where did the name Folkzilla come from? How did you come up with that name? And then what's going on? And if you need to save some of this for when you have your segment about the song, that's fine. But I'm just kind of curious about the name and then what inspired Indigo.
Yeah. So Miss Folkzilla, I wanted something catchy. I wanted something that wasn't too dramatic. I tried to start a solo project, I don't know, about 5 years ago. And I look back on it and think the name was just too, like, no one cares. Like, it's too blah. Like, I know I want everything to be brooding and serious, but sometimes it needs to have a little sparkle, a little pop, something that'll catch your eye and be like, what is that? So that's kind of how that is, a little geeky. The Miss is like, a little cheeky. So, and it's not authentic folk. I was a folk singer songwriter when I was young and did like a album. And yeah, that's not really what I where I wanted to take it. Now I feel like that was done for me. So it's, let's see, I don't know, folk, pop, electronic. We'll see. Something like that.
Okay, well, it makes sense that it's not just one thing. I mean, clearly with everything that you're pulling from in your background, that you're going to have overlaying genres and influences happen. I mean, it's almost impossible to not have it that way. And so, no, that sounds really interesting. And again, I saw I think it was actually on your website. There was a really cool painting for Miss Folksville. I assume that was something that you did yourself.
Yeah. With my digital painting.
Awesome. Yeah. No, again, like I was telling you pre-show, there's so many things that you have your hands in that I was just really fascinated by. It's like, look at all the stuff she's done, and it's done so well too. I mean, it's one thing to do a lot of things and they're kind of like so-so, but like it's all on this high level. So it's like, oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Yeah, and kind of
that's a really good point about the music too, though, because like as we were discussing before the interview, it's really hard when you do so much stuff sometimes to not get overwhelmed with how do I market this? How do I market myself? How do I not keep rotating personas to match what I'm currently working on? How does it become a blank? But it's okay to accept that, like you said, if you have multiple interests, that's all going to kind of come together in said song or said project. It doesn't always have to be separated. It's a really good point.
Oh, thank you.
I'm interviewing you now.
Yeah. What else would you like to know? I think a lot, again, because everyone, yourself, myself, Alice, have our hands on so many different things. I've come across the same type of thing that, for example, on, when was that, Sunday, I had dusted off my camera and went out and did a photo shoot. Hadn't done it in months. And, but that shoot was supposed to be a precursor for something else. It's almost like multimedia oriented, because I do have my hands on all these other things. So it's like, I don't want to just be specifically doing a model shoot for 2 hours. It's like, I was talking to the gal ahead of time and said, I have a storyboard in my head of what I want to do. So are you game to be my guinea pig? And that's what we kind of work through. So are they the best photos? Not necessarily, because they're serving a higher purpose that I'm trying to get to. And so it's like, so when I was first doing this, I had a music duo, I had Eclectic Arts, and then I had this other thing. So I used to call it my three-headed monster, because I never knew what I was working on. And sometimes they crisscross and the heads get all intertwined with each other and that kind of stuff. But that's usually when some of the most interesting things happen.
I think you're right. And I think we're also taught, we go one way. You get one major, you get one job, you get, you're good at one thing you do. And the idea of the Renaissance person, man, woman, isn't really, it's not like held to the same ideal anymore, or same regard anymore, and it should be, because we should have more of an open mind and we should be pursuing multiple things, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't like being in the same lane or the same silo, or this is where like society tells me I'm supposed to be here, because you're a photographer guy, you're whatever guy over here. It's like, no, I'm going to be all of those and then some.
Right.
There's no rule against it. So
yeah, why limit yourself? Although there's nothing wrong with doing some one thing really, really well too. We need people like that. So I guess shouldn't like shut down the open mind there. Have open mind for everything, including just doing one thing well too.
Yeah, no,
cool.
I hear
the rest of us are crazy.
Well said. Yeah, you guys keep studying and coming up with a cure and a vaccine and everything that we need you to.
We'll be also trying to figure out everything else.
Yeah. So once you do your part, then we'll be back on stage and we'll be back in the photo pit and everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how we'll balance each other out.
Making the magic.
So, like you were mentioning, I mean, you're kind of you are working on other things, and you've been a part of different bands. And So like in the next, we've got about 4 or 5 minutes here. Are there any things that you think back of, because you've done so many things over your career, just off the top of your head, are there certain things that just really stand out? You're like, wow, I just can't believe I got an opportunity to do this, this, this. There's got to be a ton. I'm imagining.
Yeah, when I think back on some of the roles I've sung opera wise, there's nothing like it. Nothing like it. I would sing a full opera role in a heartbeat. If someone said, "Hey, we're going to do this at a local, community theater," I'd be like, I don't care. I'm doing it." So I just don't get the chance to sing full roles right now, at least with my job, still too much. So that Lucia de Lammermoor was my favorite role. Got to sing that twice. Man, drop of a hat, I would sing it again. And starting my own opera company, having that, I would love to do something like that again. And singing at the last presidential funeral was pretty amazing. I sang for 5 presidents,
Wow.
4 living presidents that day. So that was a huge honor. That was a huge honor. I get a lot of opportunities that are kind of mind blowing in my job. So yeah.
Yeah, no, just when you're talking about it, you've sang for 5 presidents. It's like, it just kind of took a few seconds for it to really sink into me, of like, then I start picturing in my head of you and, the big room area, whatever you want to call it. And that level of circumstance, whatever you want to call it, there's got to be, I can't even imagine what that must be like to be actually in there, let alone performing.
And then in uniform on top of that. I mean, just it compounds itself. And the job that I, working for the Army Band can be one of those things that just, blows your mind sometimes. The honor that you get to be a part of these things and be giving your talent and what you worked for to something like that is just, it's like all the ends meet.
Right. Yeah. No, that's very well said. And I know you've had the chance to sing the national anthem in so many different places. Are you a sports fan by chance, or?
No.
Do any of those performances happen to stick out in terms of maybe the stadium you were in, or just everything just was a really great time, or the city you happen to be in of where you were singing the anthem?
Yeah, I forget what the soccer stadium is out here in DC. It's a huge stadium. I got to do the anthem solo there. That was pretty intense. This is a huge stadium. And then they gave us some like really expensive box seats, and it was like free beer. And I was like, oh my God. I felt very special that day.
Oh, do you ever, you've been performing for so long, do you ever still get nervous?
Oh yeah. I do. Yeah, I do. I love performing at these high profile jobs, but they do make me very nervous. It's just something you got to deal with. And you get good at channeling the nerves. Oopsies. You get good at channeling it, as probably other performers have told you that too. Channel that into something direct. It's like an energy thing. You just push it out there. You make it happen. You do something good with all that extra nerve. So, but yeah, that does make me pretty nervous.
Okay. Yeah, no, and you're right. Some of the other guests talk about the same thing, that it's almost like if they're not nervous, then something's actually wrong if they don't feel nervous.
Actually, that's usually when something does go wrong, because you're not checking things and you're not making sure, you're just like, whatever. And that's what it like. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, NICOLE, it was such an honor to talk with you and interview you. I don't understand, we have other segments in the show that involve you, but where can fans check you out online and everywhere else?
You can check me out on my website, NicoleBouffard.com. I've got pages on there for everything from my Miss Folkzilla to my opera to my artwork. Is all on NicoleBouffard.com. And you can check me out on Instagram at NicoleReneeBouffard.com. And other than that, a simple Google search will probably bring up some stuff too. So there you go.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much. It was such an honor talking with you tonight. And I'm looking forward to everything else that's kind of revolving around you and Tosh and Alice tonight.
Yes, me too. So excited. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Take care.
Yay. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.